Welcome to another installment of Friday Q&A. I hope you're all fantastic. Thank you all so much for this week's questions. If you've got questions for next week, put them in the comments below. If you check the video description, there are links to my Patreon and the music I make with Ragdoll if you want to support the channel. And if you want to talk about guitars, coffee, cats, anything like that, join the Discord server that is linked in the video description. What am I playing today? A Hamer Standard from 2008. African limber in a Carina finish. It's basically a 58 Explorer clone. I've got a Duncan Jazz and an evenly voiced harmonics pickup in here. I got this out on the weekend to play a Ragdoll show with it. I use it for about 2/3 of the show, and playing lightning bolt shaped guitars is really, really fun. So before I get into the questions, let's hear this mighty beat. Alrighty, that's that guitar. Pretty fun, right? Okay, first questions. Do I play video games and what are my favorites? I used to play heaps as a kid. I was a Nintendo 64 kid, so both Zelda games on Nintendo 64, GoldenEye, Perfect Dark, all the good stuff there I played so much. I kind of fell off the console wagon until I got a Switch recently, and I basically just got that to play Breath of the Wild, which is amazing. I was playing some GTA 5 on the PS4 the other day as well, and you know, for someone whose last experience with video games was basically a Nintendo 64, games are so awesome right now. I actually didn't play a whole lot during the pandemic. I think that's because Animal Crossing came out and my wife pretty much played that exclusively on the Switch. So yeah, probably my favorite game on the old 64 was a game called Body Harvest as well, if anyone remembers that one. That was pretty awesome. Alrighty, next question comes from John Paul de Guzman. Would I consider making an AX8 video for 2021? I have been planning one. I want to do some more patches for the AX8 and release it with a few new impulse responsives that I've been using. You're hearing one of them now with my Axe-Fx 3. So I'm kind of keen to play around with that a little bit. My dad has my old AX8 at the moment and he's loving it, which is super awesome. I think it's one of his favorite pieces of gear of all time. So yeah, there will be some more AX8 and some more Axe-Fx Ultra content coming at some point this year. This one is from Tim. He mentions Paul Gilbert, Racer X revised solo he did in 87 or 88. My God, that man was a force of nature. Yes, he was. Live Extreme Volume, if you haven't heard that, has some of the most ridiculous guitar playing ever. And not just for the speed, like Paul and Bruce, just their attack on the guitar, I think, was so legendary. Like, whenever anyone says shred doesn't have feel, go and listen to the feel those guys are playing with. So much intensity. It's so awesome. I love it. So there's your listening recommendation for the week. Go and get up some Live Extreme Volume. This one is from Pedro. Modelers versus tube rack mount for a simple medium to high gain sound. No effects, just pure distortion. Do you think the 90s stuff beats the top of the Wazza modelers? Top of the Wazza. He didn't say top of the Wazza, but I just misread something, and you know, that's a saying around here. Top of the Wazza. Add to your Australianisms today with that. Basically, I wouldn't say they're better than any of it. The gear that we've got access to now, stuff like the Axe-Fx 3, the Kemper, the Quad Cortex looks like it's going to be amazing. It's literally some of the best gear of all time. And while I love collecting the old rack stuff, it's getting to the stage now where you really need to know how to service those units and, you know, be invested in the upkeep. And I would feel way more confident just gigging with like an Axe-Fx 3 or even, I don't know, a Line 6 HX Stomp than I would with an 88 MP1 and a bunch of rack effects and a MIDI switcher and all that kind of stuff. So I think the appeal of the rack gear is that you can get a lot of functionality for not too much money. So considering something like the top-notch modelers now, you know, they cost quite a bit of money and they do so much stuff. They're essentially amazing pieces of studio equipment as well as live equipment. Like you can run, we've done Ragdoll gigs where both myself and Ryan have run independent chains in the same Axe-Fx 3 and it sound absolutely epic. But having said that, the old rack stuff is cool, and if you can get it cheap and you don't mind keeping up with the upkeep on it, get on it. It's pretty fun. Pretty fun. The user interfaces are terrible, but the sounds are still pretty epic in my opinion. Alrighty, this one is from Ballas Hallisey. Would you compare the Quad Cortex against the FM3? Sorry, have I had a chance to do that? No, I haven't. I haven't tried a Quad Cortex yet, although I have seen a few other videos from a bunch of other people, and there's certainly some cool sounds. I would be pretty keen to hear stuff like the built-in amp models and the built-in effects and some of the other functionality in there. At the moment, it seems like everybody's focused on the captures element of it, which, granted, is pretty cool. It was interesting to watch Rabeer's video and how much he freaked out and seemed to genuinely enjoy playing with it. He mentioned that he'd never really used another modeler in depth before, and it just, watching it, I was kind of sitting there like, man, this dude needs to try an Axe FX 3. If you like to get in depth with tone, it looks like still nothing is getting close to the mighty Axe 3. So yeah, Rabeer, you should definitely try an Axe 3 if you haven't, especially if you like the dual amp thing, because having listened to a bunch of Tosca and, you know, the stuff he does with 2 amps and his pedal board with the Strymon stuff, I feel like he would be all over stuff like the Plex reverb and the multi-tap delay in the 3. But, you know, he's going to sound epic no matter what he plays through. Same thing with Pete. So yeah, I would really like to get my hands on one at some point and try it out, just to see if it measures up to the marketing. I shouldn't even say that. It's not going to measure up to the marketing because there's a couple of things in there which I've discussed. If you go and check out my videos with Ryan from Plagueside Studios, like stuff like the processor and, you know, things like that. I just want to hear the tones. I'm not super interested in the capture feature. I want to know about the amp models and the effects. So I'm sure they'll come out with some videos with that really soon. And hopefully I can try one soon. That would be super awesome. Alrighty, enough of that. PRS Dave 22, awesome stuff as always. Question for your next Q&A, that's this one. What are my main passions in life besides music, guitar? For PRS Dave 22, it's motorsports and cars. That seems to be one that goes together nicely with guitars as well, especially if you're into tinkering with things. I was saying to somebody recently how the pandemic made me realize that, yeah, I'm super fortunate to basically just be somebody who plays guitar. But guitar's also my main hobby as well. So like the old rack gear, amps, all that kind of, all the stuff, all the ridiculous stuff you can see in these videos. That's sort of my main hobby as well. So guitar's all consuming for me. But for me, I'm super into cooking. I love coffee. That's been the latest thing that's kind of been consuming me. Cooking is like the only other thing I think in life other than playing guitar where I really just zone out and get in that flow state and focus on one thing. You know, keeping fit, playing with the pets and all that kind of stuff, and kind of spending time with my wife and my mates. You know, it's what I like to do. It's good people make life very, very enjoyable. I think, isn't that the saying? You know, if you can't do the job that you love, just try to do a job with good people. I feel like life's like that as well. You know, if you can't be with the one you love the ones you're with. Wasn't that a song or something? It's not a song, it should be. Somebody write that song or cover that song. It's a song, isn't it? Alrighty. This one comes from Gear Music, a tutorial with the FM3 and the Mel Audio MIDI commander. I don't know if I'll do a standalone video for that, but I might do like a general MIDI video on a few things. So the one thing about the MIDI commander is the way it sends CC messages is a little bit limited. If you want something to use with the Fractal, I would probably recommend getting something like an AirStep if you want a cheap one. So yeah, maybe I'll do a video comparing a bunch of MIDI controllers. That might be a bit dry and boring though, but I'm sure somebody wants to hear it out there. So yeah, solid maybe on that one. This one's from Marcus, and he said he had only heard Silent Lucidity from Empire. So Marcus, I hope you listened to the whole thing, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did the first time I heard Empire. What an album. Just so many good songs on there. Like, I can just put the whole thing on and listen to everything and not want to skip anything, which is, especially in today's age of just being able to like shuffle playlists and skip songs, is an increasing rarity. So I really hope you enjoyed Empire. This one's from RTB Music. How's the environment for gigging as a singer-songwriter in Perth, like playing covers, busking, restaurants, bars? A lot of cover gigs are back on, especially duo stuff. It's kind of a little bit similar to the way it was before the pandemic. Like, you know, most venues don't want a loud rock band, understandably, so they'll book duos. So I haven't been super busy, but a bunch of my friends have. So compared to a lot of other places in the world, A, you can do it, and B, you can do it safely here in Perth, which is awesome. We're so lucky, and I continually say that. I literally get up every morning and just kind of take a deep breath and reassure myself how fortunate I am to live here in Perth, where we can actually do those things at the moment safely. So yeah, it's a pretty good place to be. Okay, this one is from Chase McCutcheon, talking about over tweaking. And how do you get to a point where, you know, you've dialed in a sound, like say this sound I've got right now. How do you stop tweaking it? How do you know when you're finished? And, you know, I heard this quote in relation to somebody who was mixing a solo album. How do you know when the mix is finished or when you stop working on it? How do you know you've got the right guitar tone? Kind of when you stop tweaking it. So my advice would be, don't care too much. Like, it sounds counterintuitive for somebody who spends like all their time on this channel talking about how to dial in tones, but set yourself, don't spend more than 5 minutes on a guitar sound. Like, you know, if you're dialing in a sound, it has to be for a purpose. If it's for a mix or something like that, have the track playing and use the first thing that works. This applies to songwriting as well. And if you're trying to find a lyric or you're trying to find a melody, use the first thing that works and then move on. Try not to get too hung up. So yeah, if you can, you know, put yourself in that mental state where it's okay to stop tweaking, and literally it's close enough for rock and roll. That's what we're doing here. It's close enough for rock and roll. It's probably going to be fine. Do I need 2 or 3 dB at 2 or 3K? I'll worry about that when the song gets mixed, once I've done the recording. So get a tone that's close enough, that makes you happy, that's enjoyable to play, that gives you a vibe, and then do this. Just roll your seat backwards so that you can't reach your amp or your Axe-Fx or anything like that. That also means I need to do the rest of the Q&A from over here, which is pretty funny because now you can see more of this ridiculous Ponchos. All right, this one's from Christian. Still waiting for that tone feature on Ghost. Listen to a lot of Ghost around here. They're one of my wife's favorite bands, so we've often got Ghost on in the car. And I was thinking about that. I was like, I should do like a 5 killer riffs Ghost, because they have a lot of good stuff. That would be a good challenge. Alrighty, this one is from... Is this one from? Oh, this one's from Scott. Scott Weldon, I hope I pronounced that right. When I don't have my bandmates around, do I use a drum plugin to help get my rhythm going? I've done a couple of videos, not recently, just about like how I make demos. So I'm using Slate SSD5. I'm pretty tempted to switch over to Superior Drummer or something. A few of my students have Easy Drummer and Superior Drummer, and looks pretty awesome and sounds pretty awesome. But yeah, the Slate stuff makes me happy. I used a bunch of Slate samples on to basically fix up a Ragdoll live recording we did. If you go and look up Ragdoll live from Cherry Bar, the drums on that, which were just a desk mix, sounded not the best. So there's a lot of sample replacement going on there with the Slate stuff. And I think it sounds fine. So you can go and check that one out, and also check out my videos on just how I make guitar demos. I think I did a few live streams like that as well. So yeah, Slate SSD5 for me. Really easy to get a great sound. Use the Chili kit in it. That's the one. Also, you heard that on the Ragdoll Live from Isolation recording. So we did an EP that we all recorded from home. Cam played his electric drums, and I just used the MIDI output with SSD5. And it worked really well. Shout out as well to GT Singh for making the new intro for my channel. I'm glad you all like it so much, because he sent me that and I was like, I got emotional watching it. It was so cool. He does amazing work, and you should definitely go and subscribe to his YouTube channel. All right, we're getting near the end right here. And again, shout out to like everyone across the States who had no power and no hot water and all those kind of things over the last couple of weeks. That sucks. Not being able to play electric guitar sucks, let alone not being able to have like basic utilities. So yeah, I hope you're all doing a whole lot better this week in particular. Okay, how do you stop making LT guitar faces when you've got Ragdoll cranked up in your headphones at the gym? It's impossible. You cannot avoid it. All those riffs are designed, you know, for this. you know, that's what it's for. This guitar's going out of tune as well from basically guitar face abuse. So yeah, thank you for putting up with my out of tune guitar. This is a classic question. Have we ever thought about adding another guitar player to Ragdoll? So you have a rhythm and a lead guitar. Yeah, we've done that in the past, and the last 10 years we've been a three-piece, and every single gig we do, somebody says, hey, have you guys ever thought of adding another guitar player? Because, you know, there's only 3 of you. I really liked the gig and you sounded great, but hey, I'm a guitar player as well, you know, extra guitar player. So no, that's never going to happen. Between myself and Ryan and Cam, we've been doing it for like 10 years now, and we played around with the extra members. We started off as a 5-piece years and years ago, and that didn't work out, and a 4-piece didn't work out, and the 3-piece has been the most stable thing. So yeah, you're just going to have to put up with no guitar when I play a guitar solo, which is why I turn on so much delay and why Ryan plays with distortion on his bass. That's our little workaround there, and it's totally fine. You know, it's okay not to have rhythm guitar. It's okay to have rhythm guitar as well. I love it. I love rock bands with 2 guitars. Thin Lizzy, AC/DC, Judas Priest, you know, King Diamond, so many of my favorite bands have 2 guitars, but, you know, a band is as much about getting the personalities right and getting the chemistry right as it is about the instruments. So in our case, it was more a case of just 3 was a magic number. So yeah. Thank you for that question. I'm sure it'll come up at the next gig as well. Alrighty, finger slidey pick noise on Fractal gear. I can't say I've really had that problem, but it is interesting that you notice that. So you could always play around by just increasing the threshold and the attack and release on the gate. That might do it. You could even kind of add a little bit of multi-band compression or something, and like in front of the amp, probably in the like 2 to 4K range or something like that. But yeah, that's a tricky one. That's a real tricky one. Let me know what works out for you there. Couple of questions, actually. 2 more questions. Maton electric guitars, thoughts? I had a Maton 808 that was like such a sweet little acoustic guitar, the same one Tommy Emmanuel plays, and it got stolen. So yeah, I kind of want to get another one at some point. And this one from Nubosaurus, great name. Do you have any advice with layering guitars? So all the Ragdoll stuff is generally quad-tracked rhythm guitars. I did a video called like How to Make Riffs Huge or something, where I just kind of went over my approach for layering guitars. And I say my approach, it's the approach that I started using working with friend of the channel, Troy Navaban. Shout out to Troy for encouraging me to get into that. It was actually 100% his idea. He was like, hey, we should quad track everything on Back to Zero. And it sounded really, really great. So yeah, Troy knows all about the quad track thing, and I kind of swear by it as well. Alrighty, thank you all so much for your questions this week. Because I rolled my chair back, I can't tweak my guitar sound either, so I'm just going to play you all out with some out-of-tune chunkiness. See you all next week. If you've got questions for next week, put them in the comments. I love you all. Stay safe and be good to one another.